This is Musical Talk.
Musical Talk.
The UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Musical Talk. The UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, I'm Nick Hutson. Welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. You're going to be hearing an interview with Pippa Ailion, who is the West End's most famous casting director. I met up with her at Gerwood Space, and this is what we had to talk about. I'm joined by a star name that has put many star names in the West End. This is Pippa Ailion, and you cast shows. And as I was saying to you before we got going, I have no idea what that involves, and this is why I'm desperate to talk to you today, because I don't think many people know what casting directors do. So, what do you do?
What do I do? Well, when a project comes my way, either from a director or a producer, they ask if I'm available to cast it. Obviously, the first thing you have to do is read the script, so you know what it involves, and you find out the size of the production, and you then talk to the director, and you get involved with the musical director and the choreographer. Those are the three most important members of the creative team that I get involved with. Also, you get involved, obviously, with the producer, because there may be certain casting demands that the producers want in place. So you gather all the information you can, and you find out the size of the company, and how many ensemble, how many principals, da-di-da-di-da. Then you get down to having ideas. I work on a sort of twofold basis, really. I always do my own lists. So I will look at every role and think, well, from my knowledge of who's out there, who would I like to see in those roles? And obviously you start with, the ideal, who may be completely unobtainable. But you make extensive lists for every role, every major role.
Do you have sort of this list in your brain, or do you have...
No, I have this list in my brain.
Wow, that's...
in my brain. Because, I've been working in this business now for, over 30 years. And I've been going to the theatre since I was a child. I grew up in Brighton, and there was a wonderful theatre called the Theatre Royal, which had touring productions every week before they arrived in London, and I used to go and see them. I sort of have a really, thank God, a very good memory for actors. So I have these people in my head. Sometimes I have to be, reminded of people, and I'll often say to my associates, who was that person, so-and-so? Or I keep every a show I've ever seen.
So do I.
It's fascinating reading when you go back. And I say, go to that show, and I saw it in 1968, but there was an actor in there that... I can't remember who it was, or 1991 or whatever.
I have the 94 programme of Oliver.
Yes.
And Tamsin Outhwaite was in that production.
Yeah.
And
it's fascinating when I never really have time to sit down and read all my programmes, but if I did, I would be amazed by the people that I saw in their very early stages of the career, who are now great names in our theatre.
Or now no names.
Or no names, disappeared off the face of the earth. So that's what I do. I start making lists, and then I would present these lists to the producer and the director, and they would say, yes, no, yeah, whatever. And then we perhaps, for the leading names, place them in a certain order and go and see if they're available and they're interested. The next stage of the operation would be to put a breakdown out to all agents, and you can do this via Spotlight or by various websites that are for casting, that are helpful. and you put out this breakdown of what you're looking for, and you ask for submissions from agents, because this is their job. The agents want to represent their clients and make suggestions. So then the post piles in. And I'm quite old-fashioned. I don't have time to sit and look at a computer.
How has the internet affected, I mean, this might lead off into a whole different conversation, but how has the internet, has it made it easier or harder? Is it a double-edged sword? Is it...
Well, it's certainly made it easier in that you can just look up people and see their CVs, and you can, Google people, and you can get all the information you want in an instant. It's very time-consuming, though. The internet has made everything more time-consuming. But it's great for instant accessibility. I ask for submissions unless we're doing something and we need something like now. I always ask for submissions in the post. And so sacks of CVs come in. The postman comes with boxes and sacks. I think if any actor saw how many people they were always in competition with, they'd probably give up. It's frightening, and it takes half a day sometimes just to open the post. And then the CVs are put into either character piles or agent piles, sort of alphabetically, and I literally go through them all and see, to be reminded of people that I haven't thought of, or new people. It's always wonderful to find new people in casting. And that is the most time-consuming job.
With new people, and I think lots of our listeners might want to know is, what are you looking for? Because it's very hard to get into an industry when you have no experience, or you're not lucky enough to have gone to arts educational or Mount View.
I mean, if we're talking about musical theatre, you're looking for an exceptional voice, you're looking for a presence, you're looking for a charisma, you're looking for someone that has some acting ability.
And how do you gauge that from a CV?
You look at the work they've done, the parts they've played. You look at where they have worked. You look at the directors they've worked with. For me, it's more about where they've worked and who they've worked with, rather than the parts they've played. Apart from, of course, if they're just coming out of college, then, we will have probably seen them in a showcase or in a show. We can always research them. We can always ring up and say, look, we're interested in so-and-so. It's hard. The photo sells them. I always tell, when I go and talk to students, I always say, your photo is so important, because that's what gets you through the door. Because you haven't got much on your CV when you start, but if your photo is vital and says something, I am a very interesting person, then that's your passport.
And we're still in a very, I used to say literally, a black and white world when it comes to photos. Yeah. Are we starting to go the American way?
I hope not. I really hope not. No, I think black and white is classy.
Really, isn't it?
I think it is. I mean, when we have occasionally, we have obviously American actors who come over here, and in fact I had one the other day, and it's a very technicolor picture, and it says something completely different. Over here, the theatre is a business, and it's a very, very serious business, and hopefully it's a career. And so I think the more we take it seriously, and the more, your photo is as I said, your passport, your entrance into a, possible casting, and your CV has to be laid out properly and clearly and succinctly. All these things really matter as much as you walking in the room.
So you gauge the actors from their CVs. So
I gauge them from their CVs.
You get in touch with the
and
agents.
Then I get in touch with the agent and say, these are the people we'd like to see, and we set up auditions. And then, of course, we go, at the same time, we're going down the path of the list and seeing those people. And then sometimes you have to really spread the net very, very wide. You're constantly presented with challenges in casting. That's why I love my job. I some of the shows I do are extremely challenging to find the cast.
Especially when a show's come from America, for example.
Yeah.
And there's a big show coming from America next year. The real theatre fans will want the Broadway cast to come over. That's all. That's all they want. But then some people want celebrities because it might sell the show better.
Yeah.
Some people have images in their mind of what these characters look like, and they might be disappointed. So it's a huge pressure on everyone involved when you have an existing.
It
like,
is.
Like Wicked was a good example. I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of shows that have come over from America and worked with a lot of wonderful, American creative teams, and they always have at first, they're completely. They feel that we will never be able to cast the show over here. That's the feeling that you get. The Broadway cast, which is usually phenomenal, then no one will ever measure up to that. And then gradually they begin to realise that we have some wonderfully talented performers here who sometimes surpass what they've had before, or are just different. Our musical theatre actors are also really good actors. We don't differentiate anymore. Before, years and years ago, you were a singer, or you were an actor, or you were a dancer. Now, you have to be what we all know as this triple threat.
Sheridan Smith is the best example of that, because she went from being a bit of a clown on television to, okay, she can sing in Little Shop of Horrors, and she sang very well, but she can also do Somewhere That's Green on about 55 different levels.
Exactly.
And then she won the Olivier Award for Legally Blonde, and now she's doing.
And then she also won an Olivier Award for Flair Path, and now she's doing Doll's House. So I think actors who get pigeonholed, I don't think you should pigeonhole actors at all.
It's their job to play different people, isn't it?
It is. They absolutely have to transform, and they can do this, and they should be given the chance and the opportunity to show actually what they can do. With all these long-running shows, and quite a few of mine have been going on for quite a while, you always hope that there are obviously there is a blueprint for the character, but you always encourage whoever is coming into the show to bring something of their own. I mean, it's not healthy for an actor just to have to, carbon copy someone. That's what they don't want to do that.
Give our listeners a rundown of what shows you have done.
Oh God! Well, at the moment,
just the first 300.
At the moment, well, I've been, as I said, I've been casting since. I've been full-time casting director since '87, and prior to that, I worked for 15 years prior to that in the business, in as an actor, as a teacher, as a company manager, as a resident director, as a associate producer. So I've sort of covered all areas, which has been fantastic. My career was never thought out. It was just, would you like to do this? Yes, I'd love to. And that's how it went. And I started, when I started casting full-time, I started at the Old Vic with Jonathan Miller, casting European classics. And so that was very different to musicals.
It's interesting you started then, because that was when the British musical theatre was really starting to come alive, wasn't it?
And I cast, during that period, the first original London production of Into the Woods, working very closely with Stephen Sondheim. While I was at the Vic, we did a production of Candide, and I worked very closely with Leonard Bernstein. So those were two very, high points of your past career. From those two musicals, I was suddenly asked to cast musicals. And then and it went side and side, alongside still doing plays, which are obviously very dear to me as well. And then I took some time out and went to work at Central School of Speech and Drama with the acting course there. And then I was asked to cast Rent. And I thought, well, perhaps this is going to be fun. So I came back to full-time casting. And during the sort of intermediate years, I'd been doing a lot of stuff in Ireland, a lot of television, commercials, a whole sort of gamut of casting, besides other musicals. And I came to do Rent, and then I was asked to do The Lion King. And then I've done a lot of work for Disney. Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Which I wish would come here.
Yeah. We started work on Aida, but then that was stopped. And so at the moment, I've got, I've got We Will Rock You, which is now in its 10th year, Lion King, which is, I think, in its 13th year, Wicked, Billy Elliot, which is an original musical here. I did, obviously, Legally Blonde, Spring Awakening, Ragtime and A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is at the Park at the moment, Sweeney Todd, which came from Chichester and is now in the West End. Last night I had Kiss Me Kate open in Chichester. We also have The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which my associate James Hutson cast, and Top Hat in the West End, which he cast. About to start... We've got the tour of The Lion King, first tour of The Lion King going out.
13 years.
Yeah, that's going into rehearsal next month. And then we go into Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Sam Mendes. And then The Pyjama Game with Richard Eyre, which will be at Chichester next year. Besides doing Blue Man globally and... other stuff for Europe.
And that other big show that's coming here soon.
And that other big show.
Which we can say is Book of Mormon,
Book of Mormon, yes, which we've just almost finished casting.
How was that?
It was great. It was great. I mean, it challenging, very challenging, because again, it's such a phenomenal success on Broadway that we've got to come up to what they have, and we've got to satisfy the whole creative team, and they've been delightful. We had a great time working with them, and so we're almost there. We're almost there with it.
Chichester's a powerhouse at the moment, isn't it?
It is.
It's the new Menier, I think. They're sort of just generating...
Exactly. I mean, I worked at Chichester I did some casting there in 97, did, plays, a season of three plays, which was wonderful, because you were, you could attract, leading members, like they do, as they do now, leading members of the acting profession. And then, as you say, the musicals are really, I think, Chichester summer musical all goes together very well.
It does, yes.
I did Love Story there, and then I did...
That was lovely. I was really fond of Love Story, and I enjoyed it when I saw it, and I have the cast recordings. So.
Oh, yes, it's a wonderful,
I think
wonderful
Howard Goodall,
piece.
even though he hates musicals, he needs to do more of them, because
he is. He's involved in something that I'm involved in at the moment, which is a musical of Bend It Like Beckham.
Ooh, at last.
So that's in development, and we'll see what happens. So Love Story, and then Sweeney Todd, Kiss Me Kate, then The Pyjama Game, and then of course they've done, hugely successful Singing in the Rain and musicals prior to that.
Are you involved in rehearsals for all these musicals at the same time?
I always go to the read-through, the first day, and then I usually pop in during the rehearsal process. That's the wonderful thing about casting for theatre. That's why I sort of took the pathway of theatre against television.
Because the job, they don't recast films every year, do they? So.
And it's not just the recasting, it's you have a life with the show. And I start at the very beginning with the creative team, we go through all the auditions, we work as a team. You go to the first day, you see the rehearsals, you see its opening, and if it's successful, you see its life, and your life goes alongside it, and that's very exciting.
It's certainly the most organically creative thing. And musical theatre especially is the most collaborative art form in the entire world.
Exactly.
Because if you change a note, if you add a bar to a piece of music, it affects a lighting, it affects a set change, it affects the character, it affects everything, and more so than plays, I think.
Yes.
So it doesn't end at...
It doesn't end at the audition.
It doesn't end ever, really, does it?
It doesn't end.
Because a musical, there's never... love story might appear again in some guise.
Yeah, well, we
another.
did a production of The Go-Between at started at West Yorkshire Playhouse and then toured, and there is talk of a future life of that. You just never know. You collect wonderful performers and you take them along with you. I mean, someone said to me last night at Kiss Me Kate, so I said, most of the people in this show have been in other shows for me. Obviously, there are some new, because you always want to find new performers.
It's only fair, isn't it?
But you collect them and you move them around. And Alex Bourne, who's playing Petruchio, said to me, "But you've been responsible for my career." And it's true. He's been working successfully for me.
You introduced Dame Carrie Ellis to the world.
I did. I saw her play Eliza. She was a swing understudy, and I saw her, and I thought, oh, she's rather good. So there was then casting We Will Rock You for the first time. So I brought her in. And I said, first of all, I obviously said to her agent, can she sing other material? Because she had this fantastic, legit musical theatre voice singing Eliza. And he said, yes. So I said, well, let's see her for We Will Rock You. She comes in and we take her through and she gets the role, and then, then Wicked and so on and so forth. Albums and And there have been that's what's wonderful. There have been a lot of performers that you see from the beginning of their career and you nurture them and you gradually move them through
You're
until
motherly
they...
figure for a lot of these.
I guess so. Yes, I guess so.
In a polite way.
Yeah.
Has Facebook and Twitter changed?
Well, it's quite intrusive sometimes, and it's not discreet.
News can spread like wildfire.
It certainly does, and and one understands how performers, when they get a good piece of news, want to tell the world, but it's not on really. You have to wait for. We've just had an incident with Book of Mormon. You have to wait until it's completely done, with the producer's blessing and the public announcements have been made. It's quite detrimental sometimes. And plus the fact that you get all these rumours, the gossip and the rumours, which are totally untrue most of the time. Mm. But it's sort of, I don't know whether it engenders, sort of excitement about the production. But I think you have to be. I think actors need to be very careful. They need to be discreet.
You can look at it as it's very good as a piece of promotion for the show, and that might be what the actors are thinking. Saying let's spread the word about this production immediately.
Well, I think it's fine about spreading the word about the production. It's not fine about spreading the casting until until you really know, because I've read stuff or I've had stuff told me about who's getting this part and who's getting that part and that, and it's all completely untrue.
I don't believe anything until the press release is on my desk. So
exactly,
that's
quite right.
Always, so I guess I'm trained well. But Pippa, good luck with everything else that you have planned. And thank you for telling the world it is what you do, and I'm sure it's. You've opened many eyes, and you'll probably get more CVs now flung onto you.
Well, it's always good to receive them. Thanks very much, Nick.
My thanks there to Pippa Ailion, answering many, many questions I'm sure many of you had. If you do have any questions for us, even though Pippa would disagree with us, we are actually on Twitter and Facebook, twitter.com/musicaltalk, and Facebook at facebook.com/musicaltalk. Musical Talk. Do join us again next week for a lovely, wonderful episode of Musical Talk. We'll see you then. Have a lovely week. Bye-bye. This episode, copyright 2030.